Dawn in a medieval village was not gentle. It was a sudden, bitter confrontation with reality. Imagine a peasant rising before the sun, the floor of their home icy from the night, the smell of smoke from last night's hearth still clinging to the walls, and knowing that survival demanded movement, labour, and precision. Here's the paradox. Every task, from fetching water to ploughing the fields, was both ordinary and extraordinary. A single mistake could cost hours, food, or even life. Yet millions of people live this rhythm daily, not out of leisure or curiosity, but sheer necessity. Their world offered no luxuries, no slack in time, and no forgiveness for idleness. And here is the mystery. Despite brutal routines, peasants developed skills, intuition and knowledge about the land, weather and human endurance that modern life has largely forgotten. Every sunrise brought a sequence of carefully orchestrated survival, from tending livestock to preparing meals, maintaining tools and negotiating social obligations. Tonight we step into a full day in the life of a medieval peasant, exploring the invisible expertise embedded in ordinary labour, revealing a world where survival and work were inseparable, and every choice was a small act of strategy against the relentless demands of nature and society. To understand a peasant's day, we must examine the context that framed it. Life was dictated by seasons, sunlight, and the obligations of both feudal lords and family. Before the sun rose fully, the first task was often the livestock, milking cows, feeding pigs, checking chickens, because the survival of the household depended on their health. Fields were next, ploughing, sowing or harvesting, depending on the time of year, often using wooden ploughs drawn by oxen, their iron-tipped blades cutting stubborn soil. House chores ran simultaneously. Firewood had to be split and stacked, food prepared over hearths that required constant attention, and water fetched from wells or nearby streams. Meals were functional, heavy in calories, and simple in preparation, designed to fuel labour. Peasants also repaired tools, maintained fences, and preserved crops for winter. Social obligations, taxes, and occasional village tasks filled gaps, ensuring no part of the day was wasted. The rhythm of work mirrored the rhythm of life itself, relentless, efficient, and deeply intertwined with survival. The medieval day was long because it had to be. Every hour spent idle was risked starvation, lost resources, or damaged crops. Understanding this context illuminates why peasant labour appears exhausting to us, yet was finely tuned to human endurance and environmental demands. Here's the clever part. Every motion and task was optimised, almost like a choreography of survival. Ploughing a field was not just brute force. It involved pacing the oxen, adjusting the plough depth and turning the soil to retain moisture and prevent erosion, learned through years of observation. Harvesting involved knowing which plants to cut first, how to bind sheaves for easy transport, and how to store them to avoid rot. Cooking over a hearth required controlling smoke, conserving heat, and timing ingredients so meals fueled rather than wasted energy. Even resting had logic. Short naps were strategically timed to maintain strength for labour-heavy afternoons. Body mechanics, endurance, and spatial awareness were all part of the implicit knowledge peasants carried. Tools were maintained constantly, sharpening blades, mending handles, patching shoes, not because it was optional, but because a broken plough could destroy an entire day's work. Knowledge about wind, rain, soil, and seasons governed nearly every decision. This hidden logic was oral, practical, and adaptive. Unlike modern labour, which often separates effort from survival, medieval work fused life and necessity, teaching efficiency, resilience, and observation in ways that were invisible to outsiders, yet essential to existence. Survival was never random. It was structured, deliberate, and learned. Modern life can take surprising lessons from this orchestration of labour and survival. Today, we often separate work from sustenance, energy from efficiency, and action from consequence, but medieval practices offer insight for resilience and sustainability. Time management, task sequencing, and energy conservation were embedded in daily routines. In survival situations or remote living, replicating their strategies, like preparing meals that fuel activity, maintaining essential tools, and pacing labour to physical limits, can make a critical difference. Community coordination, like sharing water sources or coordinating fieldwork, mirrors modern cooperative approaches to resource management. Even ergonomics and fatigue management, learned instinctively through repetitive labour, are relevant for athletes, outdoor workers, or anyone seeking efficiency without exhaustion. Seasonal awareness, from planting to preservation, teaches us to plan ahead and anticipate scarcity. The medieval peasant's day is a blueprint in micro-survival engineering, each action considered, each motion purposeful. By examining this hidden wisdom, we see that efficiency, resilience and survival are timeless principles, not inventions of modern convenience. What once ensured survival now informs sustainable living, preparedness, and respect for the rhythms of work and life. The story of a medieval peasant's day reminds us that endurance and intelligence often exist in the most ordinary routines. Every sunrise was a negotiation with nature, every meal a calculated energy investment, and every task a lesson in observation and foresight. In reflecting on this daily grind, we understand that human survival is not merely about strength, but about strategy, adaptation, and intimate knowledge of one's environment. Modern comfort has erased much of this awareness, yet the lessons remain potent. Time, energy, and resources are finite, and attention to detail can mean the difference between failure and survival. By immersing ourselves in the life of a medieval peasant, we reconnect with a mindset where work and survival were inseparable, where intelligence manifested in practice, and where every day demanded creativity, endurance, and planning. If this journey reshaped your understanding of ordinary labour, carry it forward. Notice the strategies in your daily life, apply the principles of efficiency and foresight, and remember that survival in any era is the art of turning effort into sustenance. The past whispers its lessons, waiting for those willing to listen.